Welcome to The Real and the Woo. I'm your host, Lauri Stern. Join me as I invite experts and friends to discuss a range of topics, from the factual and practical to the mystical and magical. Consider this your virtual happy hour filled with lively, authentic, and meaningful conversations meant to inform, inspire, and ignite your curiosity. Whether you are very real or super woo, this podcast is just for you. Welcome to The Real and the Woo. I'm your host, Lauri Stern, and my guest today is my friend, Gryn. And I have to say, I just love your last name just because it makes me smile, just like it sounds. And I just really appreciate you being here today because I'm a little bit of a super fan. Gryn takes my yoga class, but he does so much more. And if I were a dude, I would know even more about what he does. And I've given you trouble about, well, how come you don't work with women? And how come I can't do your program and all that stuff? And maybe you do, and I just don't know that. So why don't you take it away for a little while and tell everybody what it is that you do professionally?
Yeah. So thank you for having me on. Looking forward to this. So, I've been in health and wellness for like 20 years now, going almost 20 years. And I first started out just training and pretty much training out of a studio, me and two other trainers. That's sort of how I started. And I've gotten more I went from the fitness end and I've gotten a little bit more into the nutrition end because we all know how important that is. And they all sort of play a role in getting to optimal health. And so yeah, I've been building out a program for mainly middle-aged men, but I have worked with women before. And so I've been doing that over the last probably 5 to 7 years. Also been podcasting, the Get Lean, Eat Clean podcast, and coaching as well. And so health has always been sort of the forefront of my life. And now I get to do it as a living. And I'm really blessed that I'm able to do that. And so I just try to lead by example. And so I take your yoga classes from time to time and really enjoy them. And it's just a way for me to balance out my lifting and some of the other things, mainly lifting. I would say lifting, yoga, golf, like three main things I really enjoy. And so
because you coach golf too, right?
I also coach golf, right?
Yeah.
And that's just a couple months out of the year for the high school team, but it's a great way to interact with the younger audience and try to make an impact on their lives. So yeah, I also coach golf as well. So
yeah, that's amazing. I love that. And I just want to thank you for the book that you gave me. So in one of my yoga classes, I think I was saying probably like 6 months ago to you, like, I'm thinking of doing a podcast. And can you tell me, about the ins and outs of podcasting? Because you've clearly got one, like you just said. And that'll all go in the show notes below, by the way, how people can find you also. But say the name of your podcast again.
The Get Lean, Eat Clean podcast.
Get Lean, Eat Clean, right? Yeah. And so, I don't know, we just were having this conversation like we do sometimes after class. And I don't know, the next week or two when you came in, you gave me this book that I've just loved.
Oh,
and
glad.
I was just looking back over it last night. I would like to have that man on my show. I'll put his book in the show notes below. I'm forgetting his name right now. It just flew out of my. Do you remember?
I don't. I feel like I gave that to you a little while back, but yeah. I mean, I will say the cool thing about having a podcast is you're able to really reach a lot of people, but also meet a lot of people and network, and so it is fun from that aspect. And never, you never know who you can get on, so it's worth a try. Yeah.
Yeah. And the dirty little secret that I'll tell you now is, you gave me this book so long ago, and like, yeah, I'm going to read it. And I'm such the kind of learner that has to do something in order to really understand it. I glanced through it. I don't remember anything really about it. And then this podcast happened. And then before you and I were meeting, like, I'm going to go look at that book again. And lo and behold, I'm so glad to say, maybe I subliminally absorbed some of it, but like a lot of what's in that book is what I've been doing. So that's very gratifying and affirming too. But yeah, sometimes people will give me things. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get to that. And then it's like, sometimes I really don't until I do.
Right.
But really how I learn is by doing. And so you probably have clients like that, right? So you've got your programs, and it's like I was looking at your website and I can read your website, I can read through the programs, but just like I do for chakras with yoga, we can sit and learn whatever we want to. But I think we connect, you and I, on integrating into the body is really making those neural pathways connect. So, do you want to talk about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I think most people learn best when they do. And so, yeah, I mean, I think with a lot of my clients, getting them to take action is the most important thing, because there's so much information now regarding health and nutrition, and what to eat and when to eat, and there's no one size fits all. That's for sure. But I think that we get inundated with all this information, and a lot of times that last missing piece is being able to take action. And so I think for me, with a lot of my clients, is holding them accountable and just being there as being a part of their team and help them work towards, their goals. And so I think everyone could use a coach, whether that's in health, wellness, business, marriage,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, everyone can use a coach. And so I think, that's the role that I try to play.
Yeah. And I agree, which is why I do what I do, which is the energetic wellness side of it, the customized part. And you hit on that because it's not one size fits all. And so, how you hold your clients accountable obviously would be unique to each client. But have you come up with some sort of secret sauce for yourself where, like I only want to work with people that really are ready to work on themselves? Because otherwise, it's like a one and done kind of one hit wonder. There's plenty of great one hit wonders out there. And I'm happy to see a client for Reiki or whatever one time and then they go whatever. But I really want to make an impact in people's lives with the consistent practice, with a consistent steady base, which you and I both see. Just when I've been your teacher for so long, I've seen the transformation in your practice, the way you hold your body in space, the way you're more confident on the mat, more forgiving of the spaces that aren't so open. That's the hardest part too for students, is like that little nugget of trying to be perfect, or why doesn't my leg straighten out all the way because my muscles are so big on the one side. But yeah, so tell me about how you found success in keeping people accountable in your life.
Yeah. And regarding your question, I put together a program and I made it 6 months. And you talk about holding someone accountable for one time, or I say, someone might come to you once and then you might not see them again. And that's true for any profession. But I, on purpose, made this program a little bit longer than my other programs, because I've had like 3 week programs, or 2 months programs. And I think that that's part of the reason why I did 6 months, because, like you talk about with yourself, Lauri, with trying to find someone who's serious, who wants to like make an impact on their own health. And we all know that consistency is key in doing it over a long period of time. Those are like two big principles, right? Because I think a lot of people start things and they stop before they actually see the results. And a lot of
Yeah.
times the results don't come until later. So it's all about instilling these habits that, even if I work with someone for 6 months, yeah, they're going to see results, but they've had these habits, let's just say these bad habits that aren't serving them for a long time. These could be decades. So 6 months can be great and you can make an impact, but it's all about instilling these habits so they can continue beyond what you're worked with them through your program. And so that could look different for different people depending on, their background, age, male, female, and health status and things like that. So yeah, but that I just wanted to make that point. So
Yeah. No, that's great. It's so, I mean, we're all students. We all continue to learn, I hope. And so just developing the programs, it sounds like, you started with one idea and then it's developed into something that you've really resonated with, that brings you more success and you see success in your clients. And so that's amazing. That's a wonderful thing. I guess I want to ask a couple of questions too. Like, what was your biggest challenge, or has been one of your biggest challenges so far? And then I want to ask you if you can tell me a story or two of like, what are your biggest successes?
So regarding challenges, are you referring to as a business owner, or are you referring
Yeah,
to with
it's
clients?
funny
Okay.
because I was thinking, well, he's going to ask me if that's about his business or his personal life. And, you can put it in two categories. Just in terms of business, though, right now,
Sure.
what was one of your biggest obstacles or challenges that you encountered and overcame that might be the biggest success, or there's a different success story of a client that you've had that you'd like to share.
Yeah. So I think that, going into business for yourself and being a coach is one thing, but being able to create like a sustainable income and put enough value on your services that you can make it sustainable income. I think a lot of coaches have trouble coming up perhaps or essentially like valuing themselves enough to have like a high ticket item that they can sell. And I think this took me a while. I got a coach to help me with this. I worked with him probably 3, 4 years ago to develop a program and a system and a blueprint and a high ticket item that I was able to successfully sell. And this took a lot of training to get to that point. So I think that was like a challenge. I think initially, this was not something I had, but in order to actually, have a sustainable business, I think this was something that was necessary. So that was a challenge. And then your second part of your question was regarding like a success story from like a client.
Yeah.
Sure. So one in particular, this was a gentleman who was like in his early 40s and not in totally bad shape, but realizing that he had some health issues that were underlying from from family ties from his dad. And so he wanted to get ahead of things, which I applaud him. I think a lot of people maybe wait, not till it's too late, but wait too long in order to value their health before anything else. And so, he was probably, maybe 15, 20 pounds overweight. And I hate to say that because it's not always about pounds. It's about, sort of that whole picture approach, which is what I try to take with all clients is, yeah, sure. Being at a sustainable weight that's practical, that allows you to do the things you want to do is important. But like, there's so much more to health than that.
Yeah.
I think like, especially nowadays with like all the social media and Instagram, it's like, okay, it's all pictures and how people look, but that's not really necessarily true health. I mean, I think that's maybe one aspect of how you look and feel, sure, but like, how's your sleep? How are your hormones? How's your stress? How's your physical activity? Are you moving? You're not staying sedentary. So there's just a lot going on there. But I helped him get to the weight that, was more sustainable for him and create and build confidence from that. We worked together for 6 months and, you build a relationship from that and hopefully you can just help them instill these habits that, that'll last a lifetime. So, that's just one example.
Yeah. I like the way you say that. I think I know too, this Instagram culture, and especially from the yoga side where I come from, or the sculpting, toning side, it is, those defined muscles, those beautiful, lengthy looking, you know, Lululemon poses or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so, my friend Pam, who's a teacher that she's one of my teachers. I always love when she says, even people coming for the workout in yoga are still getting the yoga, which means
Sure.
even if it's one or two deep breaths, right, they're getting that internal work. And so I would submit too, like even people who are attempting to look perfect on Instagram or whatever, they're getting themselves into poses. Sometimes it takes working from the outside in to kind of start to connect inside out, right? And you kind of touched on that with this client that you just mentioned, because my question to follow up is, you said he came to you with some maybe genetic or family stuff, because this podcast is both the real and the woo. The real side is that's all real. And so I wonder is sometimes when you're working with clients, do you start to tap into the more energetic work that has to be done, the limiting beliefs, the hidden triggers that might keep a client in a scarcity mentality or lack of worthiness to feel better? Right. And so how do you help them tap into that? Or do you seek people out like someone like me or someone like somebody else who does energetic wellness to piggyback on that? Or are you just that much of an amazing human that you can do all
Yeah.
that yourself, which
Well,
I
I can't
think you
perform
probably
miracles.
can.
No, I can't perform miracles. I can tell you that. But no, it's a great question. And I had a woman on my podcast, probably you'd be great to have on yours, JJ Flazanes. She's been in the
Write
health
that
and
down.
I can send you her information, but
Okay.
she lives in Ojai, California, which is a cool part of the country. But we got a little bit into this, and I think especially with males, they don't necessarily, this is not something that they always talk about or they even want to talk about, is sort of the underlying subconscious thoughts that have been sort of going on for a long time. I did have one client who I noticed when we talked once a week that he would refer himself as like a fat guy, like that. He
Mm,
just, he had sort of this self-deprecating sense of humor where he would just refer to himself that as that. And I think if, think of it this way, you're calling yourself the fat guy for the last 2 decades, right?
right.
What's going to happen
Right.
from
It's like a
that?
self-fulfilling prophecy, I would imagine.
Exactly. And so I think he was almost unaware of the fact that he was doing it. And so I sort of brought that to his awareness. And, at least I think the first step is understanding that you're doing it first and foremost, and then trying to sort of counteract that. It's not like something that I'm like, especially an expert in per se, but I
Mm,
think just making him aware of this and then understanding that like, words matter, obviously,
right.
they do, and how you talk to yourself, self-talk, which is something I talk to my golfers about all the time. Like,
Hmm.
these kids are 14, 15 years old. And like, especially not to go back to golf, but, when you're playing golf, you're the only one out there. There's not, yes, there could be people watching you, but it's not like you're playing basketball and you got like this cheerleaders and the fans yelling and screaming and encouraging you. You don't get that in golf.
Right.
You're like on an island. So self-talk is that much more important. And I think in life that can be true too. So,
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. And you just connected a dot for me because, I've sort of been sniffing up, your realm in terms of being male. And you just hit the nail on the head, which is there's a lot of men who are not comfortable discussing ways they might be vulnerable. I'll just use that as a catch all term. Vulnerability comes in many forms. It's negative self talk. You identified that. But, emotions, I don't want to be sexist, but a lot of people in general, males, I think, at least in my generation, were raised that emotions are for wusses or emotions don't matter, right? Success matters. And you and I in this realm now see so clearly that success is a combo of balance of your emotional body, your mental body, physical, internal, right? And so I'm guided to do these chakra workshops for men. And then the saddest part is I'm told that not a lot of men want to work with other men in a group setting and talk about their chakras and ways they matter and just like going up the chain from Roy G. Biv. And so that's great, work with me one-on-one. But I find group settings with this kind of work specifically is so just transformative because just like you said on the golf course, you're an island alone, but in a group setting with a lot of like-minded individuals, especially of the same gender, you see you're not alone with your negative thoughts. Like the fat guy is the fat guy next to you. The, lack of business acumen person is the same person next to you, whatever. And so the universal connector is what I'm after and helping people sort of realize they're not alone and you don't have to be alone. But of course, sometimes it takes working one-on-one with a coach to even take that baby step. I love that you
right.
recognize that for your young athletes, their negative talk matters. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt about it. And I think the
Yeah.
sooner you can nip it in the butt, right?
Mhm.
We all have negative self-talk. It happens to the best of us, but
Yeah.
I think if you're aware of it early on and you realize that, it matters, that, you can sort of change those habits as you go.
Yeah. And then the trick is, dialing back, where did that thought come from? And how was that thought planted within that person? And, as a youngster or as a teenager, of course, it's just going to be like, I'm so stupid or I suck. But that comes from somewhere, whether they recognize it or not. It could be in their DNA. It could be how they're being raised. We don't know. And, if we're lucky as coaches, all of my kids played sports and we know there's great coaches and there's coaches that really suck ass. And the great coaches do more than just coach. And I'm not saying that you need to become their best friend, but you're basically with these kids more than their parents are sometimes. And that's a huge responsibility to notice their emotional settings and to try to guide them to adjust those dials. And so I love that you notice that. That's such a major, major part of being a great coach and a great human. Yeah. So I wanted to touch on also, you brought up the idea of valuating or coming up with a revenue stream and placing a value on your services. I know for me, coming out of the gate, starting to offer private yoga, of course I would do this all for free because it's
Yeah.
my passion, right? I think we all would, but it's also an energy exchange. There's a value for what we do, and learning to just put some bigger pants on and making no apologies for that. I should get paid for what I do, but the hard part is finding that value, because of course I can look at 25 other people doing what I'm doing and they're charging way more, and I can look at people charging way less. And so coming up with that set point, and you said you found a coach for that, but was that a hard kind of, nut to try on for yourself? Like, how did that feel to say the first time I charge X, and like not feel like you had imposter syndrome if you did?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. It wasn't, I think what gave me the confidence to do it was developing the program and the system, like first and foremost, and then building my confidence from that, meaning like, okay, I have something to offer this individual, like that has, so much value that, like instead of saying, well, I'm going to charge this, like, well, I've been in health and wellness for 20 years. Like you're taking that experience and putting it into your program. That's a lot of time and effort,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you look at it that way. And so like, yeah, I mean, offering a high ticket item is not like an easy thing, but I think once you just, it's like all it does is selling it once. And like once you sell it once, then I think like not this, yeah, then the confidence can build from there. But yeah, I mean, having a coach to help you put the program together and build confidence around that fact that you have a system in place, I think, really went a long way for me.
Yeah. Great. So, Brian Gryn, right in this moment, what is bringing you joy?
Oh, wow. Okay. A lot of things. What is bringing me joy? I mean, doing the things that I'm passionate about.
Like?
Oh, okay. So I don't know if this was like a fast, quick segment of like one word.
There's no rehearsing. There's no rehearsing on the show, right? The joy is there's no rehearsal, just like life.
Oh, well, things that bring me joy, hanging out with my family, my dogs, my wife, and then doing the things I'm passionate about. That would be yoga, golf, working out, and then just trying to positively impact others. Those are things that bring me joy.
So it sounds to me like you have no trouble finding joy, just like we do in our work. When we keep at something and build a habit, it's just easier, right? So sometimes for some people, I would not put you in this category. Finding joy is hard work. And so pausing in your day to create more of it will also build more of it. You can see my dog is over there too. She's having a little nap. So thank you for sharing that. And then I wanted to circle back to, for the woo side of this show, do you have any sort of spiritual practices you'd like to share with the audience that might help others, or just you just want to share what you do?
Oh, well, two things came to mind. One is going for daily walks, being outside. I think and getting sunlight is so important. And that's a big part of my life, especially because I have dogs. So that helps. But also too, I found a great, like this, I think it's called boho meditation, where it's like, I do like a 10-minute meditation in the morning when I get back. And I think that's something that I've been wanting to implement. And I started doing it like maybe every other day. And now it's just so, easy to not, I shouldn't say easy, but just like, I found a meditation that sort of, I really enjoyed. And I just started doing that, once a day. So,
yeah. Is it a guided meditation situation?
It is guided in the beginning, and then it's sort of like no talk in the middle. And then, so it is a guided meditation. Yeah.
I've incorporated daily meditation into my life, obviously, and it was hard to start. It really was. And guided meditation was what got me into the place in the first place. And then, I'm so musically inclined that now I just play certain pieces of just instrumental music, because if I play music that has a melody, I start to anticipate what the next note might be, so that I take myself out of the meditation. So I play a lot of different sort of instrumental things. And then lately, more and more, I've been playing nothing. And that's been really interesting to see where my mind goes. And of course, we talk about this in yoga, just come back to the center, come back to the center. And I'm human like everybody else, and I have trouble. And so it's just really interesting to notice where and when my mind goes squirrel. And then, practicing lack of negative self-talk and just easing my mind, just like I tell you guys in class, just ease your mind back to the center. And so, yeah, I do a combo of that. A lot of times I'll do like a walking meditation, or I'll get on my bike. I have the most amazing downloads when I'm physically doing something, and I'll stop and I'll put it on my phone and like, I got to remember this. So, and I was just having this conversation with one of my mentors yesterday, just about that, trusting that I'll remember what I want to say. She's like, well, maybe just don't write it down. Maybe just keep writing and just trust that when you need to channel it, it will come through. And I really thought about that, because the way I teach, and you've experienced this, maybe you have or maybe you haven't, but like I'll be teaching a class, I'll have an idea of what I want to maybe do that morning, or the music usually informs the flow. Or you might say, I slept funny, and do you have anything for shoulders, or my hamstrings are tight? And I'll just do that. And then what happens is somebody after class will say, that was great. Can you do that again? And I'll be like, what did I do? Because I don't remember. And it's like that with clients, just like when you're with somebody and you hear them call themselves a name, you kind of pull out your past experience for the last 20 years. I've been in this industry since 1984 or 5. And, when you really take a pause for a moment and look at how long we've been at this and how many credentials we've built, it's like a college professor. And you think about when you send your kids to school, how much you pay for that. Right. And if all I'm asking is just whatever I charge for my session, it seems to me that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it's a bargain.
But yeah, I really draw upon my wisdom and the years of my experience with each person, with whom I work. Yeah.
What instrument are you playing?
I sing.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay.
I talk about that in class all the time.
Yeah.
I sing in class sometimes. I think you've heard me.
Sure. You have a great voice.
I can play the tambourine. I used to play the keyboards, but I'm so out of practice, and you play, right? Guitar?
I'm learning guitar.
Yeah. You've got like a few, don't you?
I used to play piano growing up, and then I started getting back into piano, and then I'm like, I want to learn something different. So now I'm in guitar, and I have a great instructor who was referred, a local guy, and he comes over once a week for like 30 minutes. So it's short, but like, just a way to keep me moving. And it's fun. I love playing.
Yeah. I really wanted to get into guitar, and my son was playing for a period of time. And back in high school, when I was in a band, I could play the beginning of More Than a Feeling, that riff. And when Noah was playing guitar, he was learning Smoke on the Water. And so I was like kind of playing around with that. But there's a thing about fingernails, although I have no nails anymore. So maybe now is a good time to pick up the guitar. Yeah. My nephew calls me Sheryl Crow, and, she's from Missouri, so am I. And so if I can just play the guitar and pretend I'm Sheryl Crow, I dig it. Yeah. All right. So tell everybody, is there anything else that you'd like to share? Oh, here's a question for you. I've been asking people. If you were standing in front of a mirror right now, what would you say your superpower is?
Oh, wow.
I love watching your face on the spot. Yeah. It's great.
What would be my superpower?
Yeah. Or if somebody met you on the street and said, I know you've got a superpower. Do you know what it is?
Well, when it comes to people, I think like adapting to different types of people. I feel like I could be friends with most people. And I don't know if that's like a superpower, but maybe that's just from coaching. But I think I can make someone feel good and comfortable around me. And I think not everyone is necessarily that good at doing that. And so maybe that could be my superpower.
This is where spirit comes in, right? Because I ask my guests that question, and 99% of the time, that's exactly what I was going to say to you. I find your superpower to be, you are the most authentic and kind and inclusive person in a world where you don't have to be. You're an expert in your field, and you didn't have to give me that book, but you did. And I just find that to be tremendous. That is a superpower. And I hope that you continue doing that, because that's really amazing. It's obviously what makes you a good coach for adults and kids. And I hope that the people in your life really appreciate that about you, because it's just who you are. It's who I see you are. And clearly it's on and off your mat. So I love that too. When a student has that authenticity no matter where he or she is. That takes a lot of work. And I clearly can see you've done a lot of work on yourself, and to live that authentic life all over the place is such a gift.
Thank you. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. You're welcome. All right. So tell everybody how to find you, your website, and then of course it'll be in the show notes below. And if you've got any sort of, offer you're willing to give people or anything like that on your website or anywhere else, just take it away.
Yeah. So briangryn.com, just everything's there. Yes. I mean, you can reach out if you want to reach out that way. I also have a steps ladder system book, which is $7.99. So I really priced it. So
value.
yeah, I was going to say I really priced it pretty cheap, but I think the book is there for people to, it's more of a workbook, like people to go through, and it's like my 6-month program packed into that book. So I wanted just an easy way for people to sort of do it themselves. So that's one of the big things that I've just been, harping for people who want to just get started. And so, yeah, everything's there on my website. I'm sure you'll put some, links in the show notes, and
I will.
They want to reach out on Instagram and stuff like that. I'm on there as well. So,
okay, great. And do you have a newsletter that you produce? Like if people subscribe to your newsletter?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Once every, it's not like you don't get inundated, at least not right now. So I've been doing it. I probably going to start doing it a little bit more, but it's about once every couple of weeks, and it'll just highlight like what's going on with my podcast and who are the guests. So if individuals want to just listen, they know what's coming up. So
that's great. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And whenever you make it into my class, I'm always happy to see you, and just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, you as well. And I just like to say, like, people listening, that, if you want a positive influence, you should hire Lauri. And yeah, she can do a lot of great things. And yeah, really enjoying your yoga class. I wish I could make it in more, but I do my best. So,
and I always say, the people that come into my class, they come into my class. I'm not going to give you the stink eye at the sunset if you haven't been in my class in 6 months. It's like, do your yoga wherever that is. And I know that doesn't make me a ton of money, but I'm not the teacher for everybody, and I don't have the schedule that fits everyone's schedule, right? That's why I do privates too. But truly, like you said, your yoga can look like several things. It can be shopping at the grocery store. It can be taking a walk. And so if that's your yoga that day, or you resonate with a different instructor, go do that, because when you're happy in your life, you are the hub of that wheel of everybody else in your life. So just go do you. I'm lucky that you come into mine sometimes, So
I'm
thank
lucky.
you. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
All right. Again, thank you so much. And I will see you on the mat.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. All right.